I don't think I'm crazy when I say that today's episode was one of the most moving, if not the most moving of all ReZero history so far. Even though I give it a perfect score, there were still little details that, if they had made it to the screen, would have really improved the scene of the protagonist falling. For example, the detail that Emilia, while falling, positions herself so that it's her body that hits the pavement and no Subaru's. That and other details in today's video. Welcome to all the good content from episode 11 of ReZero's 4th season.
Today's episode picks up where we left off, with Subaru waking up his murderous intentions after Ram told him he is a fake Natsuki Subaru. Here, a dialogue about Mei's ghost, who advised Subaru on which side of the Oni he should attack, was omitted. After this, up until the part where Subaru loses consciousness, some internal thoughts of Subaru and character dialogue were unfortunately omitted. They aren't a huge deal, but they help deepen the situation. On Subaru's part, he started thinking and was terrified when he realized they hadn't found Mei's corpse yet. That made him suspect that there was another group behind the scenes. Ram also based her deductions on this Subaru being fake, not just because of Capella's transformation power, but because she says the real Subaru would still make jokes if he were in a life-or-death situation, unlike Natsuki Daniel at this moment. Then, Ram's attack happens, leaving the amnesiac Subaru unconscious. I want to pause here for a moment. After this scene, Ram doesn't appear again in today's episode. At first, I thought she was a victim of the enemies in the tower, those enemies who took on Rem's appearance. What I'm about to say now is a small 30-second spoiler, so skip ahead a bit if you don't want to hear it. Ready? Let's start. I thought Gluttony had devoured Ram, but later we confirmed that Emilia still remembers her, so nobody knows what happened to her in this loop. Perhaps she died again, defending Rem from Shaula, as another past loop implied. Afterward, when Subaru wakes up, the novel makes it clear that the ice cage was still active, only that if Subaru pushed himself, he could slide out, especially now that he had a dislocated left shoulder, unlike in the anime, where he didn't have this problem. And in the animation, his cage was melted, unlike in the written text. Then something happened that briefly killed my expectations. It's not that they adapted it poorly, it's just that the way they adapted the part where Subaru discovers the scribbles wasn't the best in my opinion. I always thought that when that part came, they would do a circular shot showing all the words written all around him by his other personality. But it didn't happen, and that disappointed me a little. Then Reed appears, and the sharpest ones surely wonder how he is there if it was established that he couldn't go down to the other floors. Well, that is an answer that is a spoiler and will be revealed in the following episodes when the series resumes in 2 months. Then, since Subaru had a dislocated shoulder, Reed seems to notice this and, without warning, fixes Subaru's arm. Although, of course, that hurt the protagonist a lot. Honestly, I would have liked them not to omit this brief act of kindness from Reed, as I feel it provided an interesting contrast to his personality. Afterward, as Subaru and Reed head to the end of the hallway, Reed confesses he was looking for Emilia and Shaula because he wanted some entertainment. Don't make me say exactly what kind of entertainment he was looking for, because YouTube already demonetized my last video for supposedly encouraging unwanted behavior. It seems that mentioning that Subaru had those self-destructive practices is enough to sanction me. And just in case YouTube's AI is listening to this, no, I do not approve of those behaviors. Getting back to the topic. When they reach Julius, it is clear in the writing that his counterpart in the novel had a harder time, as it is mentioned that he was facing a herd of approximately 20 centaurs. In the anime version, it seems he was only surrounded by a dozen. It's not a huge deal, but I'm sharing it with you. Something interesting that isn't said here, but only in the web novel, is that in these chapters it is revealed that Daphne had created the May beasts. As soon as Reed sees the centaurs, he recognizes them as one. Remember that this Reed we see is a version decades younger than the Reed who knew Flugel and Satella. So it seems safe to say that by the time the group from 400 years ago met, the May Beasts had already been stalking humanity for at least 10 years prior to this trip. Then, the sequence between Julius and Reed is different in the novel. It's not that the dialogues didn't happen, but the order in which they occurred was different. And this, in turn, led to certain things not being shown. For example, Reed mentions that he likes Granhirt brand liquor, which, if you remember, is Elsa's last name. Elsa's last name isn't actually Granhirt, but that has an explanation in her novel. A novel that I will cover on this channel soon. As an additional fact, the Granhirt liquor brand is so famous that even Roswell has a small reserve of that brand and used it when he toasted with Russell for the first time in a side novel. Returning to the sequence between Julius and Reed, the anime did omit some interesting scenes involving Julius. It is said that when Reed went down, instead of collaborating with him to repel the invaders, Reed proceeded to attack him, which bothered Julius a lot to the point that it seems he started showing hatred toward him. Then, when Julius continues repelling the centaurs, it seems he tried to use attacks with spirit magic, but he wasn't capable of this yet, and this made Reed angry because he felt Julius wasn't taking him seriously. It is also said that Reed kicks him so hard that Julius crashes into the base of the tower and makes its foundations move. Only after all this would Subaru save his skin by warning him about the attack that was going to end his life. Later, in his pathetic performance with Betty and Anna, the dialogue remained almost in its entirety. The main thing omitted is that in the novel, Anna says that if she is so suspicious of Subaru right now, it is because she and Ram believe that a cultist from the witch cult has supplanted Subaru, and that is why she says later that she shouldn't have brought them here to the watchtower. But still, since she doesn't want to live in a way that brings her shame, after Subaru's lamentable speech, she agrees to meet with them later on the upper floors of the tower. As soon as the sudden scorpion attack happens and Anna is saved by Subaru, she asks him why he did it. Subaru doesn't know what to tell her. After all, it's not like he did it because of his promise to Julius. Subaru only mentions that he doesn't know why he did it. And faced with this strange but sincere answer, Anna tells him that perhaps this is his true nature as a human being. This was a beautiful dialogue that was unfortunately omitted and, in retrospect, helps a lot for Natsuki Daniel to launch into the speech at the end of the episode. A dark detail that was lost due to the omissions was one where Subaru, at the moment of carrying Betty, affirms that she weighs very little. Where is the dark part in that? Later, when he starts carrying Anastasia's remains, he says that at that moment, Anna was lighter than Betty. I know it's perhaps not a huge deal, but when we remember that the candidate was sliced in half again, this entire comparison leaves a chilling sensation. In fact, the part where Subaru carries Anna is exactly as I imagined it from a fan art I saw many years ago, which already showed us a very accurate vision of what this moment was like, and I'm sharing it in case you wish to see it. During the explosion sequence, the only thing omitted is that they describe what Betty's last seconds of life were like. Specifically, Subaru remembers that when he drags Anastasia, he says that at the moment of the explosion, Betty acted as a kind of shield for him. He adds that he doesn't forget and doesn't understand why she had that expression of relief and affection for Subaru in her final moments. Afterward, the sequence of the witch surrounding Subaru would happen. Although we see how the witch whispers her love to the protagonist, the anime makes it clear everything Subaru was thinking at that moment, and how he wanted the entity to kill him completely so he wouldn't feel again. And when he had already resigned himself to that, Emilia would arrive. Honestly, this scene is beautiful. I was tearing up when I watched it. I will upload my reaction to my website later. I'm doing it in case anyone wishes to see it, and I will also upload certain translations of the novel. I clarify at all times that they are from the web novel, and I am not infringing on light novel rights. I say this in case the YouTube bot is listening, but getting back to what was omitted, even though Emilia in the anime quickly summarizes all the events she experienced with the original Subaru, the Emilia in the novel goes a bit further and makes references to side stories that novel readers know. In fact, something that threw me off was that the Emilia in the novel asks Subaru in the middle of his speech if he remembers that they played the King's Game. That infamous game where Subaru acted like a pervert, which I narrated on this channel if you wish to see it. The other thing that was omitted, and which I feel was a cool little addition, was that before asking him to tell her his name, Emilia adds a very beautiful dialogue as a prelude, and it is what ends up breaking the amnesiac Subaru, and you can read it right now. Later, when Subaru gives his speech about how he is Natsuki Subaru, something was omitted that I hope subsequent episodes clarify or make reference to, because I feel that later on, with the conflicts to come, they need to make reference to this excerpt that I will play for you now.
Despite feeling weak, drained of strength, and with both his mind and body shattered by despair, Subaru made a solemn declaration. He earnestly prayed and wished for Emilia and the others to find peace and happiness, convinced that it was the greatest thing he could offer. He insisted that his plea was neither an admirable act nor a form of compensation, but the pathetic gesture of someone trying to do something for the people who had trusted him, believed in his words, forgiven him, and wanted him by their side. With unwavering determination, he declared that he wanted to save them, and that he was willing to risk everything to make it happen. With all his strength, he declared once more that he was Natsuki Subaru, even though the suspicion regarding his own identity had not faded in the slightest from the depths of his heart. The face and voice of the evil man who had murdered Mei Li remained burned into his soul, a memory that he might never be able to erase. Even so, he accepted that it was fine. He convinced himself that he was not seeking salvation for himself, nor clinging to others out of a desire to be saved, but because his heart was desperately crying out for all of them to be saved. He resolved resolved that if the other Natsuki Subaru was capable of accomplishing it, then he would accomplish it as well. He sent a message in his mind to that other being, urging him to make sure that the reason he had started running and what he sought at the end of the road were one and the same. He warned him that, as long as they shared the same goal, they would be bitter enemies sailing on the same ship. He admitted that he hated him, but said that he would not complain about it. He asked that, even if they could not stand the sight of each other, they endure it and overcome it together, begging that other Natsuki Subaru please to allow him to save Emilia and the others.
As you can see, this excerpt helps us understand that although the amnesiac Subaru has regained his mental sanity and wants to save everyone, he still doesn't include the original Subaru in his list of people he wants to save. It's like the wound was treated but hasn't completely closed yet, and this will have an important development later on, one I can't talk about now for spoiler reasons. Although the anime ends today with Subaru saying he won't forget the others, in reality, there were some previous thoughts that you can already deduce, but I think now is a good time to remember them, and I leave them for you below.
There was no way to resist, for in the other's arms they would be swallowed by the shadows, and that would be their end. However, this was not a definitive conclusion. Rather, from that point onward, the stage would transform into a beginning. He believed that what they had once begun would be repeated again from the end, and he resolved to make a promise for that very purpose. In that world, he swore to make real the words he had exchanged with Emilia, clinging to the fact that he had been saved, and to the burning desire to save them as well. He felt that it was time to start from that ending with all of that in mind, realizing that the time for mumbling and stammering had finally come to an end. He wondered whether an obsession that felt like a curse might actually be something beautiful, admitting that it was what he had always wished for. Though he doubted whether Natsuki Subaru was truly worthy of being loved, he was convinced that the qualities needed to earn Emilia's affection, and that of everyone else, were certainly there. He made himself a promise to remember everything, even if they forgot the words they had shared in that world that was ending and beginning anew. He swore that even if others lost their memories, he would never forget a single one of them, no matter what happened. He urged himself to always remember that promise. As the shadows drew near and absolute darkness swallowed them whole, he held Emilia even tighter, refusing to lose her warmth until the very last moment. And then, just like that, the two of them sank into the depths of the shadows. A metempsychosis took place, where everything came apart and was reduced to nothingness, confirming that the end had arrived exactly as expected. Nevertheless, in the place where everything returned to zero, something began. A battle to kill Natsuki Subaru and bring back the true Natsuki Subaru.
And that would end today's episode. Honestly, the episode was beautiful. I was tearing up when I watched it, especially the final part. While I am aware that the order of certain dialogues or events was changed, I think the change didn't affect the general understanding of the episode, but definitely, the scene with the most extra additions was the final speech scene. During Subaru's moving speech, we see in the anime how Emilia reacts, who seems like she would say she loved him, but is interrupted by the tower's collapse. Still, it was nice to see how Emilia was moved by the protagonist's sincere words. I remember the reason I was very moved today happened when both fall into the void. In the novel, it only says that Subaru tried to reach her as soon as he fell, but nothing more is said. It doesn't say he screamed her name several times like we saw in the anime. It doesn't say they tried several times to grab each other's hands. And it doesn't say how moved Emilia was by Subaru's words, as I said a while ago. On top of that, a detail that pains me was lost, because it made this scene more beautiful, is that it is said that when both hugged in mid-fall, Emilia purposely bent her body so that she would be the one to receive the impact of the fall. The amnesiac Subaru himself realizes this, and if his motivation to save her and the others was already high, surely that act multiplied that conviction many times more. Unfortunately, we will have to wait 2 months for the continuation. It depends on you, internet user, whether you read the novel or watch a summary. I would only ask that when the anime premieres again, you watch it again to continue supporting the franchise. But let's move on now to the author's tweets. The author's first tweet confirms something that was already an open secret. In case you didn't notice, the original Subaru always referred to Emilia with the nickname EMT, but the amnesiac Subaru addresses her slightly differently, and it is this that increased the suspicions on Emilia's part, who would tell Ram, and then both would cooperate for the trap. He also doesn't reveal who the person who hid Mei Li's body was and asks the viewer to discover the mystery, but it is very certain that it was Shaola. Second, he tells us that the reason Reed is here is because there was surely some sort of violation of the tower's rules. Third, here the author says something interesting and comments on how, because Natsuki Daniel didn't go through the events of the second season with the memory of his parents, he finds it harder to accept the understanding of others. Fourth, the author comments on the part where the amnesiac Subaru, without thinking, saves Anna from falling into the void. He compares this to the thought Subaru had in the third season, where he told Al that he would intervene if he saw a child walking at a red light. This is a way of saying that he would help unconsciously, and incidentally, show us that no matter which version of Subaru is present, he is truly a good person. Fifth, the author talks about the imaginary Mei Li, but doesn't confirm if that hallucination is an exact representation of Mei Li's feelings, or if it is something more. And that would be all for this part. Now let's go with today's break time. After watching today's break time, which is basically Felt and Reinhard transferring Sirius to the prison in the capital, I can confirm some thoughts I have. Mainly the thought that the animators have already resigned themselves to not being able to cover all the side stories that happen in parallel to the 4th season. So they will only show us a very, very summarized version so that anyone interested can go read it on their own. Remember that there are still stories of Aldebaran, Otto, and Felt that happen during these days. But with 8 episodes remaining, I doubt very much they will cover everything. In any case, I have already narrated all those stories in my shorts and will soon be uploading them in the form of a compilation with extra details in a long video. Finally, I want to make 2 quick notices before closing this video. First, I created a website where I will upload my reactions to not only ReZero but also other anime. I will make them free, but if you want to watch it, you will have to download it. I will also upload some translations I make of certain episodes of the novel. I clarify that I will upload translations of the only material that the internet allows me to translate without putting my rabbit ass at risk, web novel translations. Regardless, I only plan to cover novels that come out from today onwards. Don't ask me about novels prior to today. I also clarify that the translations will be done with AI and with little review of terms. Unfortunately, my main source of income continues to be YouTube, and I can't afford the luxury of correcting terms in detail. I leave that to those who dedicate themselves exclusively to this field. Right now, there is already a novel uploaded in case you want to read it, and yes, it is in English and Spanish. Regarding my reaction to today's video, I will be uploading it in the following hours. But I clarify, I will only leave the excerpt uploaded in case someone wants to download it and watch it alone. And the second notice is that I have opened an English channel on my server in case anyone wants to stop by. In this channel, there is a bot that translates messages in English and Spanish at the user's request. So if anyone wants to come, I will leave the link in the description of this video. But that has been all for today. Thank you for watching this video until the end. And don't worry, I still have more ReZero videos until the 4th season returns. See you later.